So last year I went on a global tour with my band Tora, and what we decided to do was self-manage the whole thing. And we split up different responsibilities between each of the 4 members, and honestly, by all accounts, the tour was a great success thanks to everyone's hard work and focus. Now, I had started building this tour template before we went on the road, but I didn't quite manage to get it finished in time. And in a way, that actually might have turned out to be a good thing, because while we were on the road, there were certain problems we were encountering, which I was able to build solutions for, as well as optimizations, and really to just simplify the whole process by only keeping what is essential and getting rid of all the superfluous stuff. So with this, I can confidently say that this template is road tested for an independent artist. And if you're touring as an independent artist, things only get easier as you start to bring in more people to sort of help you manage the tour as you're going. So the cool thing about this template is that it really is designed to scale. This can become a central repository that can grow or shrink with the size of your music business. And this is one of the really special things about Notion, is there's a lot of sharing and permission capability built into it as well. And so we're going to go through it step by step. We're going to look at all the different core components, and we're going to see how they link together and how they can help you when you're getting on your next tour, no matter what scale you're at. So with that, let's take a look. So this is the tour template by Musician OS. And as with all Musician OS templates, we're following a similar structure here where we have navigation panels on the left, and we have different linked database views on the right. Now, I've taken the liberty of choosing what I think are the most important database views, at least the ones you would want to see as soon as you hit this homepage. But of course, as with everything in Notion, it's very modular. You can move stuff around. You can also remove some of these if you don't want to see them here. Also, under System here, you can see the core databases. Now, I've given these a different color, just so they're not confused with these dashboard views. So let's get started with creating some content, and we can bring this whole template to life and show you how things work. A good place to start would be to create some personnel. So here I can be an artist that is coming on tour, and I'm not going to fill out any of that information just so that we can move fairly quickly. We'll create a production manager, and we will create a sound technician. Awesome. Now, as you can see, by clicking on any of these different buttons, you're going to automatically assign a different type. And if you want to see what these different roles include, I've created a list here. So as you can see, the technical might include sound engineers, lighting engineers, so on and so forth. Later, when we've created a tour, you'll see that these different personnel will be shown based on whether they're actually linked into the tour or not. And status will just tell you if they're actually active or inactive. So if you were to be having different sound technicians in different countries, say, you might not want to completely remove their information, but you would just make them inactive if they weren't actually on a tour that was happening at the moment. So let's come back here and continue to make content. How's about we add in a budget? So the beginning of any great tour, you need to know if you're going to lose or make money, or if it's going to be worth doing. And this is a very simple way to balance your income and your expenses here. And you can also see there's categories, income categories, and accounts. Pretty straightforward, just so that you can make sure you're touring at a break even at minimum, or at least a very considered loss if it's a support run or something like that. So let's come back and let's keep on creating things. How's about a couple set lists? So this would be the world tour set list. We don't even need to say that. We could just say 2025 and be more specific. We'll put a timed length here, which I think would be a reasonable 75 mins. I think I'm having one of those bad typing days again. And what you can see here are just numbers where you could write your tracks, perhaps your encores, and it's very easy to click on these 3 dots and actually export this as a PDF if you wanted to print it for stage. Of course, you can also share it as well, as with all different pages in Notion. Now, maybe we'll create one more set list here, which would be the festival set list, which typically would be a little bit shorter and perhaps a little bit more punchy, but maybe 40 minutes is reasonable here, and you would have a slightly adjusted set list. So you can see both of these are now listed. And if we come back here, let's create a couple riders. So we'd make a hospitality rider here. I've just put this information here to help you create your hospitality rider if you don't already have one, but obviously you can delete all of that. And let's make a new tech rider as well. And again, you're going to see the same information here. Now, pro tip, I've made a really good technical writer in Figma. It's free to download. It's already been used by hundreds of people, and I'm hoping to set a new standard for what technical writers could be. So it includes all sorts of icons and things that are easy to move around. Figma is pretty straightforward if you haven't tried it before, but I'd recommend getting this template and adjusting it to suit your needs, and you can export it as a PDF and then put it in here as well. Great, so we have 2 writers, and I think we're almost at the point now where we could probably make a tour and start linking things. So we can either click here to make a tour, or we can come and click this button as well. And we're gonna say World Tour 2025. So let's set a start date, about the 1st of Feb, and we add an end date here, which would be the 30th. As you can see, there's a countdown, which is a bit of custom code. This will change based on whether you're in preparation, or the tour is active, or the tour is complete. Total expenses will be accrued here, which we'll look at again a bit later. But for now, let's add in these 2 riders, which we've created. We can add in the personnel as well. We'll add in our set list for our world tour, and our tour budget also. Great. Everything's linking, and this is again the power of the neural network of Notion that I'm just such a big fan of, because you can find information everywhere you need it. For now, let's create some performances. Now we can do that directly here, but if you want to, we can also just again click this button here, and we're going to say the Regent, and we'll say the USA, and a venue address where you could put just the Google Maps link, right? Or Apple Maps, whatever it is that you're using. Now we set the date for this, which, how's about we just go with the 4th of Feb. What tour is this relevant to? Well, it's the world tour. Accommodation notes, we have none of that yet. And the running sheet information will be based on the advance, which again, we'll look at a little bit later on, and you can put this in here. The other thing I like to do is add a little bit of color. So how's about we give this a yellow, and maybe we'll actually come back to this tour and we'll also give this some color too, just to bring things even more alive. All right, so let's duplicate these performances just so that we have a couple more, and we can also just adjust the information as we need. So for now, how's about we call this one Fairmount, and this can be in SF. Great, and we'll change the date to be the 6th. And we'll come here and we'll call this one the Black Cat. The other thing I'll quickly point out is on these performance pages, you have guest lists as well. So you don't need to worry about trying to consolidate this in an Excel spreadsheet or something like that. Each performance can be dealt with separately. And you can also come up here, share, publish this page, and copy this link and send it directly to the venue manager. And this way you have a central dynamic repository. So if you need to update things and make sure that the entire team is across it, well, they can all come in and check this and they can see the information live. So I think that is pretty damn awesome. So how's about we create a few flights? Now let's go to the dashboard view here, and we'll click on new flight and we'll say DPS to LAX. What tour is this relevant for? World tour. Who is this for? Me. Airline, departure and arrival date, and you can also come in here and include a time. So this would be, 8 a.m. and then maybe we're arriving at, well, I don't know, 10 p.m. You get the gist. Cool. So we have one flight now for myself, and this is pending. Maybe we change this to confirmed, and we will duplicate these as well. Great. So you can see we have 3 flights. We have all the flight information. And if we come down to our timeline here and we go by tour, we can see that under the world tour, we have these 3 flights booked for this day. We have different filtered views based on the timeline and also on the flights for these different cards. So however you want to see it, that's totally up to you. Now let's come back and keep moving down here. Let's create some accommodation as well. So because I'm not feeling particularly creative today, we'll call this the region hotel, and we're gonna also just say this is a whatever address here. Awesome. And what is our check-in date? Well, that would be for the 2nd is when we're arriving in LA. This would be for LA. Payment details, obviously you don't have to add these in, but if you are self-managing your tour, perhaps you are happy for all of this to be in here. It's totally up to you and however you're running your tour. We add in the performance. This would be for the Regent. And what is the tour? Well, it is the world tour. Very nice. just to expedite things, we're going to duplicate these as well. Fantastic. All right, guys. Now, advancing. Everyone advances in different ways, especially at different levels. If you're doing an independent tour, you're going to maybe have to do different advances for each show. You'll have to talk to the venues to see what time they're actually opening. As you're getting a little bit bigger, you can make certain demands about what time you want to load in, how much time you need. Sometimes this comes at the cost of needing to pay the staff a little bit extra to get there earlier and open things up. Sometimes the venues are chill. It really depends on what's going on. All that to say that you might be able to just create one advance for an entire tour, but you might also have to create separate advances for each show of your tour. This system is designed to deal with both scenarios, but what I'll do is I'll just show you a single advance and how this all comes together. The World Tour Advance, right? And what's the tour? Well, we know that's the World Tour. Now, the schedule here would be the same if we're doing one for the entire tour, and you would just simply type that in. There's notes, you would attach your technical writer, your artist writer, the support tech specs, everything. I'm not going to go through and read it all out, but as you can see, there is a lot of properties here for you to fill out. And once you've got that done, you could very well come up to your tour and you could say, yes, you have actually advanced these shows, which would be, you have come in here, you've shared this document. Remember, we can share all these different pages. You copy this link and you send it to all the different venues. That way, if you need to make a change, you're making it in one place and everyone that has the advance or access to the advance sees the updates. Very cool. Right, now expenses is pretty straightforward. We can simply come in here and just say lunch as an example. What is the amount? $50. Category, food. What's the date? Well, let's just say that's for today's date. What performance is that relevant to? Well, we're a little bit early for the Regent show, but whatever. World Tour. Attach the receipt here. Add any notes if you feel like it. Now, if we come back up to the tour here, we can again see that now total expenses is added here because we've linked this expense with said tour. And if you want to get a little bit more granular, again, you come into your tour expenses and you can see a breakdown here of recent categories. Feel free to adjust or add more as well, and you'll see all of your expenses here too. Now, I know that bookkeeping can get a lot more complex than this, but especially if you're just on the smaller scale of tour, this is a very helpful way to stay on top of your expenses. And if you've got a couple band members, have everyone consolidate things, especially receipts, because then when it actually comes to tax time, you've got everything you need in one place. You don't have stuff on different people's phones or in Dropbox or on Google Drive or whatever the hell. So a little bit of a learning experience from me here. And let's keep on coming down. So contacts, what I thought would be cool would be to have a central repository of all the different people who were involved in the tour. So if one of the people is in charge of booking, but another member needs to actually get access to this person for whatever reason, there's a place where they can come if they're not able to get in touch with that person. Just a nice way to keep things all together. Now, the last thing that I think we should probably touch on is the itinerary. Based on the level that you're touring at, it might just be a little bit overkill. But as soon as you're starting to scale and you've got quite a few people to manage and everyone has to be meeting at certain places or doing certain things, this becomes exponentially more important. And I will say, if you're on a smaller scale of tour and you do just want to keep your shit dialed in, by all means, use the itinerary. And let's have a look at how that works. So the first thing would be wheels up. And we would add this to a tour and we would say, what is the date? Well, that would be the 1st. And what day is this? It's the first day of your tour. And you would add more of these days based on how many days your tour is running. So if we quickly just come back here, you see this counter here? This is an 89-day tour. And if we were going to create an itinerary for the whole thing, we would simply create 89 more of these days. Great. So how's about the next thing would be airport arrival. And we can come in here and we've already got the tour locked in, and we would say the date would be that again as well. And probably if we were going to be using this, we would be actually putting in time as well. And we would see here wheels up. So this is what time we're actually leaving the accommodation or the hotel or whatever it is, 8 a.m. right? And you get the idea. So you just come through and you're just adding these as you need. And if we were to show you another one, which would be, say, wheels up for the next day, we're going to come here and we're going to put that on day 2, and we're going to say that that is the 2nd. You get the gist. So this can just go on, and as you're planning, you can have as many of these categories as you want, and you can go for as many days as you want, and you can really map things out. So I find this to be a pretty powerful feature, wherein you can have a central repository. Again, if you're a tour manager, this becomes more useful because you're not having to independently message everyone or take messages from everyone. They're all just coming here to look and see what time they need to wake up the next day or set their alarms or whatever it is. The one thing that I didn't include is merchandise, and I do have a separate template for that because merchandise is pretty involved and there's a few moving parts, and I just felt it was getting a little bit too crazy to have that baked in here too, but I'll be making a video on that soon enough. But for now, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the comments below. I'll also put a link to this template in the description so you can actually have a look for it yourself. And with that, I'll see you in the next one.